Definitely learn, I've seen with my eyes, so many lonely people out there. And it's the saddest thing, because if we could just get those lonely people in front of each other, love would definitely happen, beautiful things would happen, and all of the creation of that love, those relationships, those marriages and families, and that powerful, beautiful, long-lasting love, the creation of as much of that as possible is the only thing that I can think of that will counter all of the darkness and sadness that we read on the news every single day, right? So anyway, love what I do, and I'm here for you every Monday night. We have a presentation tonight that's great. It's going to be some great video involved with it. We're going to talk about great questions to ask when you're on a first date, or when you become introduced to an international girl through correspondence. We're going to talk about the best questions to ask and the worst questions to ask, questions to definitely avoid when you are corresponding with or dating international women. And this is information you are going to want to write down and take to the bank and put into practice right away, guys. And if you put this information into practice right away, I bet you will see immediate productive results. You can ask your questions tonight throughout the presentation. Please do. You simply click the green box above me that tells you can text your question to me, and when you do that, I'll see you on my admin panel, sitting there looking so cute. I'll get your line opened up. You can ask whatever question you'd like to ask, guys, all right? That is an old habit. Did you hear what I just said? I'll get your line opened up. Because for about 12 years, we did conference calls instead of web chat. Just out of habit, I said, I'll get your line opened up. There are no lines, but I will read your question and answer it for you if you ask it by clicking the green box that's right above me. We're going to get on topic here in just a little bit. Guys, we've got so much great stuff going on. We have a tour that is going on right now in the Philippines, some great socials over the weekend. We got tours coming up in February to some really great locations. We've got tours coming up in Peru. We've got a tour coming up in March to Davao City in the Philippines. What a great place, one of our top destinations. Shenzhen, China at the end of March. You can travel with us to Shenzhen to meet these beautiful, very intriguing, intelligent, uber sophisticated women of China, fabulous women of China. And then early April, we're going right back to one of our best destinations, being Medellin, Colombia. And this Thursday, we're kicking off a tour in Kiev, Ukraine, which is going to go to Kiev and Odessa. John himself, John Adams, our CEO, author and architect of pretty much everything we do here, is going to be leading that tour. So that's all good stuff going on, right? In fact, right now, we are watching some video along with our presentation of socials in Ukraine from the last 6 months to a year. So these videos are very recent. You are watching women come into our socials. They stop, they register at the front desk. Just sign in. You have to be invited to come to the social, and picking up a name badge as they go into the social, and that's just one of the things that we do. We have the girls come and stop, read over your information, get a name badge, sign in, come in, pick up some champagne, start talking to the guys. Before you know it, really wonderful things are going on. All right, guys. We have seminars on deck as well. We have 2 seminars in particular that you need to be aware of. If you'd like to come to an international dating seminar, a free international dating seminar, I will be doing both of them, and I think John will be certainly participating in the latter. I've got one in St. Louis on February 17th from 11 to 3, and I've got another one in Phoenix on the 24th of February, 2018, obviously. So you can make an RSVP for either for either seminar by just writing to me, bud@loveme.com. And we need the RSVP because that allows me to make sure I've got proper seating. I've had a few seminars where we had a few guys standing up in the back, and they didn't seem to mind, but I don't want to see that. I want to make sure we have the right amount of seating. Lunch is always provided, refreshments, drinks, coffee, that kind of thing. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable so that you can have a really good seminar experience. So kindly RSVP for either my St. Louis International Dating Seminar, 11 to 3, February 17th. The address is at loveme.com. If you need it, write to me. And then at our Phoenix headquarters on February 24th, we'll have another great seminar. If you want to come to either one of those, RSVP bud@loveme.com. What do we do at seminars? We show you a lot of video like the video you're watching. We break down what's going on in the video in great detail. We answer a ton of your questions. We talk a lot about why you're here. Hey, I don't even know you, but I know why you're here. At least I think I know why you're here, and I bet I'm right, or pretty close. So we'll talk about why you're here, what drove you to do a search on the internet that brought you to, here, our webcast and our website and such. What's going on in your life, what are the circumstances, why is it difficult for you to meet somebody? What are your options? How can you use the technology that's available to you to find that great life mate that you've been waiting for? We talk about all of that. We talk about the women and why they're here and what are their expectations in this experience, how that differs from culture to culture. Why are the women in China here compared to why the women in the Philippines or Thailand or the women in Peru or Colombia or Ukraine, why are they here? And we talk about all of that. And we talk about why we're here. Why really are we here? Obviously, we're here to run a business and make money, but at the end of the day, we're very passionate about what we do. We love to introduce people to each other. We love what happens after that. We just like to think there's a tremendous amount of karma that's involved. So we're just doing that. And we just talk about all that, all of your options, how you get on a plane, go meet somebody, what that's going to be like, your courtship, what will that be like, the fiance visa process after you've fallen in love and you know that you're meant to be together. What is the fiance visa process, what to expect there. All of those things we cover in a seminar, and we answer all of your questions. Frankly, we usually keep it pretty light and humorous and have a blast. And you're probably going to meet other guys and possibly other couples that have been involved in this process. So it's well worth your time, guys. Free seminar, lunch, lots of information, a little bit of entertainment, good times. RSVP, bud@loveme.com for St. Louis on February 17th or Phoenix, February 24th. I just did 2 seminars in Nashville and Orlando. Between the 2 seminars, probably 20, 25 guys, I think, immediately signed up for our travel programs. Made a lot of friends, saw some old friends. Good times, right? Scott and David, love you, man. Glad you guys are in my realm. Okay, here we go, lads. Actually, Scott, David, and David, and others. All right, so you can click the green box right above me and text me your question. I'm going to answer a few of them right now. Then I'm going to jump into our presentation for tonight, which talks about the best and the absolute worst questions to ask, topics you definitely want to avoid when you first communicate with these international women or when you're meeting them for a first date for the first time. And believe it or not, guys, there are definitely questions you want to ask, and there are definitely questions you do not want to ask, and some of them might surprise you, so we're going to cover that specifically. And to back me up with all the good stuff I'm giving you, we've got great video from a woman on our website that we've started to see a lot of because we've recorded a lot of great blog information from this fascinating woman whose name is Elena, profile number 159503. You can look her up right now at loveme.com, or just hang in there and we'll introduce you to her in just a little bit. Robert says, I'm worried about this being nothing but a scam to make money. Do the women get paid for being on the site and all the letters paid for and photos? Robert, thank you for your honest question. Here's an honest answer. We definitely are here to make money. There's no question about it. Because if we don't make money, we can't pay the large number of people who work for us, and we really like them. So we're definitely doing that. We're just a business like any other business. But, do the women get paid to be here? No, they do not. We have a lot of independent agencies that work for us. They're wonderful. They have a niche, most of them. In other words, they have this special kind of group of women, that they meet. For example, we have a guy in Kiev, and he promotes a lot of women in the modeling and fitness industry. So he meets a lot of models and fitness stars, and he brings them to our site. And we have a woman in Kharkov who's amazing. She's a doctor. She meets a lot of women in the medical profession. She brings a lot of women to us. A lot of them are doctors and medical professionals and that kind of thing. And those are just 2 of over 100 independent agencies that work for us all over the world, and they bring a lot of women to us. Those agencies definitely get paid, and we pay them to do stuff quickly, so you're not sitting around waiting for a response from anybody. So yes, people have to get paid, so they sell you photos and they sell you the correspondence and the translation and those kinds of things. But somewhere back in time, you, like a whole bunch of men, tens of thousands of guys just like you, Robert, decided local dating sucks, not seeing what I want to meet somebody. I've heard that international women from other countries, women from halfway around the world are interesting, fascinating, and would like to meet me for all the right reasons, for all the reasons I want them to be interested in me and I want to meet them. The big question is, how do you find them? You come to us. Before you came to us, we opened offices, we hired partners, we invested tons of money in that infrastructure, tons and tons of money in setting up offices all over the world. Advertising is an enormous expense. Frankly, it's the largest expense in a business like ours, which is why there are only a handful of companies like ours that you've heard of, because it's incredibly expensive to advertise yourself on the internet. The fact that you found us, Robert, cost us an ungodly amount of money, I promise you. So all that means that we have to charge certain fees, for what we do, and I'm really sorry about that. Kind of, sort of. I mean, I'd like to think that we could be a charity and help everybody, but that's just not how we're set up. So if you're worried about this being a scam, good for you. There are scams, definitely all kinds of them out there. In fact, in our business, there are probably more scams than legitimate business. So here's what I'm going to do. I want you to not write letters and not open photos. I want you to save your money if that's what you need to do. Take all the time that you need to do to get on a plane and go and meet somebody face to face, have a great date, great courtships, fall in love, get your girl, and ride off into the sunset as happy as you can be. And when you do that, we will lose you and your business forever. And that is our goal. And nothing would please me more. Show me any other business out there that operates like that, my friend, okay? I'm glad you're here. Appreciate your question. Scott says, what time of day or night are the socials held? Our social parties are usually held on a Friday or Saturday, weekend night, sometimes during the week, depending on where you're going, about 5, 6 o'clock at night. How much additional spending money is recommended per day? I usually recommend that when you do a travel program with us, you bring about 100 to 150 US dollars per day. You may or may not spend any of that. It just depends on what you're doing and with whom and how much time you're spending, and a lot of that is a little bit up for grabs. Some dates are coffee dates, right? Some dates are dinner dates, some dates are a movie and bowling. None of that has to be very expensive, and at least 3 of those options are not going to be expensive at all. But you want some money for that, obviously. You have to pay for your dates and whatever you do for lunch or dinner. And if you need an interpreter, which will be the case a good amount of the time if you go anywhere except the Philippines or possibly Thailand and Costa Rica, where a fairly large number of women speak English. In the Philippines, the vast majority of women speak English. If you go anywhere else, and sometimes even in the Philippines or Thailand, you might need an interpreter to help you get to know your girl on a date. And the interpreters typically work for about 20 bucks an hour, and you will pay them cash directly. So you want a little bit of that every day for those dates that you'll have where you need an interpreter. Robert says, I'm from California. What city will I be able to meet women from Mexico? If you want to meet women from Mexico, I believe we have an affiliate in the city of Playa del Carmen, which is not far from Cancun. And if you want to meet them, write to us. You can write to bud@loveme.com. I'll give you some instructions on how you can get in touch with that agency and ask to meet their women, and you can work with them directly. How do you like that? JR says, enjoy the coffee. Thank you, JR. I will. Open tour reservation. If I go on an Asian or European tour, is the $475 offset against the club tour cost? Yes, it is. So if you make an open tour deposit, $475. That is basically your first $475 payment toward either a club or a tour. We will set up correspondence credits for you and other things to help you take advantage of our services right away. And that $475 goes in the bank. And it's good forever until the end of all time, as long as we're still in business. And basically, you can at any time call me up and say, Bud, I've decided to take my $475 deposit and let's apply it toward this club or this tour, and we'll be happy to do that. Then we'll get to work on making arrangements for you. Good questions, guys. Keep them coming. Here's the deal. There is a green box above me. You can text your question to me. I will see it and read it just as I've been doing here, okay? I've got a topic for you tonight, guys. A little bit of a slide presentation we'll jump into. We're going to pull away from these. Look, this great video, isn't it? Great video from Nikolaev, I believe that is. In fact, I know it is. April of last year. And it's great just to watch these beautiful women. And, you know, what you essentially see are these women talking to each other. They want to meet some of the guys. The guys are embedded. They're talking to women. You get a lot of women hanging out at tables just waiting for the guys to make the rounds. Adjusting the name tag. Got caught on camera, right? And the women in Ukraine, what I really love about the women in Ukraine, frankly, the women in a lot of countries where we go, they're very easy to talk to, very easy to engage in conversation about pretty much anything. They're interesting women. They think that foreign culture is interesting, foreign people are interesting, travel is interesting when they can do it, which isn't often, but they dream about it. They like it. They like the whole idea of communicating with and getting to know people from other countries, and they do romanticize the idea of an international husband, an international life mate. So it's very easy for us to approach and talk to these women, and you see that going on in these videos. That is a great shot of our Odessa social in April of last year. Look at that. Isn't that great? So you see very much that dynamic working when you watch this video, guys. Watch the women and men interacting. Look at Henry and that brunette right there. Up, he's got an interpreter and he's talking to that girl. These are people who just met. And I love to keep pointing that out. I'll point that out on every single webcast. My good friend Lane, incredibly good man, just sitting and talking. Look how engaged these girls are. They're all looking at him. They're all talking to him. They're all listening to him. So interesting, right? And so many women without somebody to talk to for such a long time. Great opportunity for you. These women come out to our social events to meet someone like you, and if you just go over and say hi, they'll smile, they'll perk right up and welcome you, and you will immediately feel comfortable and be able to talk and meet someone special. And that's what it's all about. All right, guys, let me give you some slides, because we have a great presentation for you. The best and worst questions to ask international women. Take note. Get something to write with. This is really, really important, guys. If you think that it's hard to date international women, you're wrong. It's not. It's easy to date international women. It's also easy to make a good impression or easy to make a bad impression. Obviously, if you meet somebody that you really like, you definitely want to make a good impression. And no matter where you go, you're going to be learning the culture for at least a certain part of the time up front, right? You're not going to be a cultural expert on the Philippines just because you go there. And you're not going to be a cultural expert on Ukraine until you've been there probably a couple of times. So knowing that, it helps to know up front what are some of the expectations women have and what do they respond to really well when it comes to being asked questions on dates. Believe it or not, it's very easy to make a good impression, to impress somebody by the questions that you ask when you're on a date or when you're asking questions in correspondence, or when you've talked to someone for the first time internationally. It's also easy to unintentionally leave a bad impression or offend somebody. And you don't want to offend the women that you're meeting and talking to. Of course you don't. So how do you avoid that little trap? How you avoid it is you watch our webcast and pay attention. Because here you go, guys. We're going to talk about pre-thinking and pre-writing, if you will, the questions that you want to make sure you ask in that first communication, whether it's correspondence or meeting for a date. Remember, guys, again, it's important to make the right first impression. Of course, you want to do that. Also, remember that you are probably not, in most cases, the only correspondent. You may not be the only man that she has a cup of coffee with. So it's very important, if you want to stand out, if you want to be her favorite first impression, her favorite first date, your questions are going to say a lot about you. They will show whether or not you are calm and balanced emotionally. They're going to show whether or not you're confident in yourself. The kinds of questions that you ask will show if you're insecure or confident. Being calm and confident is very important to these women. Being emotionally balanced is very important to these women. Of course, the questions that you ask are going to show if you're healthy-minded, if you've got a good attitude toward women and relationships and people in general, and if you're realistic. If you're paranoid, if you've got some kind of a bias. I just remember somebody talking to me recently before a tour saying, "Are there any Muslims at these socials? I don't want to meet any Muslims." If you've got a particular bias or a particular closed-mindedness about you, or if there's just something about you that's not compatible with these girls, that's going to come out in your questioning. Frankly, it should come out in your questioning, because if you're not right for each other for whatever reason, even if it's on you, there's no point in continuing. However, the right questions can create a bond, can create a mutual interest, can really fan those initial flames of attraction and chemistry and lead to a really fantastic, open, and much, much more comfortable second date, third date, and beyond. So we want to pre-think our questions a little bit. And let's apply right now four rules that we're going to apply to all of the questions that you ask on a first date or in that first communication with your international girl. You ready for this? Your questions should always be, guys, open-ended and inviting. We'll talk about that in a moment. Open-ended questions and inviting. Inviting means they encourage her to talk. You want to listen more than to talk on every date and every correspondence experience. I can't tell you how many times, guys, I get it, you're lonely. We all are lonely, I get it. But I can't tell you how many times a woman will write a few paragraphs about herself and the guy will respond with war and freaking peace. And his gigantic congressional filibuster letter, you know, which it's an amazing thing. And believe me, guys, please don't be insulted. I get it. But there's a translator on the other side of that with multiple letters to translate who looks at that, takes a deep breath and goes, wow. And then there's a girl on the other side of it who's worked 12 or 14 hours. She is dog tired when she gets home. She's got to feed her child, take care of a few basic things around the home, get the child in bed, and she's got to read a letter that was translated by a tired interpreter. It just makes sense, guys, to think about being as concise as you can and talk more to her. Ask her, tell me more about yourself. Answer this question for me, and we'll talk about specific questions. Certainly tell a lot about yourself. That's important. And definitely respond to her questions, but be open-ended and inviting and keep her talking about herself. It's also important when you ask questions, guys, sometimes mannerisms or just a change in something as simple as, the way we pronounce something, the way our voice goes up and down, just little simple nuances can throw a conversation off. So I think it's really important to reinforce that you're having a good date, that she's interesting, that you're having fun listening to her, and that you want to listen more to her. So I think it's really interesting to compliment and ask, Gloria, when I saw your profile, I noticed you have these amazing eyes, and they're brown, but then if you look closely enough, there's a little green or something there, or they're blue but almost gray. Very unique, very, very beautiful. I love your eyes. Very first thing I noticed about you. Tell me what kind of compliments you get. What are some things that people notice about you first? I bet it's your eyes. What else? Open-ended question. Invite her to talk. Let her talk a lot about herself. Be direct. It's okay to be direct. Do you find me attractive? But not too deep. Direct and deep are different, guys, right? You can be direct. Do you like me? Do you like me as a man? Do you find me attractive? Could you see yourself falling in love with someone like me? But not too deep, right? Not too deep and not too heavy. Nobody wants to be heavy at the end of a 12-hour day when she's tired, and she's got to go home and take care of stuff. Later on when you get to know each other and you're talking about the deep parts of your relationship, those deep questions are very welcome and appropriate. In the beginning, those deep questions are just going to kind of throw things off a little bit. Avoid sensitive buttons. Everybody has them. And typically you'll find them in things like past relationships. Don't talk too much about past relationships. You don't need to do that. Just trust that when she's comfortable, she'll tell you about her past relationships. Of course, religion and politics. Never, ever, ever talk politics in your correspondence or on your first 10 dates with a girl. If you're really passionate about politics, that's great. I can absolutely promise you around the world where people have no faith in their government at all, places like Ukraine, for example, maybe the Philippines, maybe some other places, they don't want to talk about politics. They couldn't care less about politics, and that's just not a good subject. At some point, your general political ideas become relevant, but that's going to be deep, deep into the relationship, guys. And negative cultural references. One that I'll talk about in a moment is we always assume that the women in certain places do not like the men in certain places. And generally, that's true. What you find is that the women don't like some of the behaviors of men. But for example, in Ukraine, women will feel sorry for their men because they understand how Ukrainian men come to this place where they make poor life partners. They absolutely understand the circumstances around men that create that, and they don't necessarily hold that against men. They just don't want to experience it or put up with it. So when you come to Ukraine and you slam Ukrainian men, some women are going to be offended by that because in a sense, you're slamming Ukrainian people and they don't agree with that. You also need to know if there's a particular taboo in culture and how to treat that taboo. Very, very important, right? If there's a taboo in the culture, then don't take it there, guys. It's really important. For example, Thai women are lovely. Many of them can speak English. They make great wives from the number of men that I've known who have met them and married them, but they are Buddhist. By and large, they're going to stay Buddhist. They don't want to change. Their families are Buddhist. That's very, very important. Buddhist people follow specific customs. There are certain things that you can't do or shouldn't do, and it's very, very important. You live in a house, you're Buddhist, you're going to have an altar to Buddha. You're going to make sacrifices to Buddha. That's just what you do. And you of course are going to have to be open to that when you meet somebody from Thailand. If you are embedded in another kind of religion, you're going to have to work out the harmony in that at some point. Chinese women are commonly atheists. There are some Christian women in China. There are Muslim women in China. There are obviously women of all faiths in China, but the vast majority of them are atheists. And if you're not, then at some point religious topics can create a bit of a conflict. And that's something to just be aware of. Places like Colombia, Peru, and the Philippines are a bit more conservative than countries like Ukraine and Russia, where the women are generally not nearly as conservative as the women in those other countries. Ukraine and Russia, interesting fact, a lot of guys don't know, but women in Ukraine and Russia are very modest publicly. They're very private publicly, and they don't like their personal lives to be on display publicly, and they don't like to draw attention to themselves publicly. It's very, very important to the women of Russia and Ukraine to be, more or less unnoticed, modest, quiet, and private. And this comes up in conversation sometimes. If you force them into an area that's really private and modest for them to talk about, they're going to be really, really uncomfortable, and that's not going to go well. So relationship questions are generally very sensitive. When you're talking about the financial stability or situations or needs of a woman or her family, how poor is your family? How much money do you make? How much money does your family make? Those kinds of things. Guys will ask those questions sometimes, but they can be very inappropriate in the beginning on first dates and such. And you have to assume that women have negative impressions about their men. That's going to be a mistake as well. Again, we talked about that, right? Sometimes the women feel sorry for their men and understand why their men do not make good life mates. So you got to be aware of those things, right? We are going to hear from Elena in a few minutes, guys. I'm going to let her answer the same questions that I'm answering for you. What are the best and worst questions? And we'd like to hear her feedback. It's always good to hear from a Ukrainian girl, right? I recorded a great interview with Elena. We recorded a ton of stuff with Elena and other girls from around the world because we want you to hear from them the things that we tell you. I've been researching these topics for years. I've been talking to international women for 17 years, guys. I've asked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them these questions, and their answers are very specific, but I want you to hear it from them, and that's why we have these great supporting videos. We'll hear from Elena in a moment. Let's talk about the best questions to ask in your first correspondence, your first couple of letters, or on that first date with an international girl. Take note, very important. First questions to ask. If I push the right button, we can do it. Open-ended questions which are very inviting. Tell me about your dreams. What do you dream of? What do you look forward to? What are some things you'd like to do? What does being in love look like to you? Elaine, I know that's a silly question, but I really do want to know. Everybody has a different idea, right? What does being in love look like to you? What are some of the behaviors of a woman and a man in a love relationship? Can I ask that? Tell me about a romantic movie or a song you like and why you like it. What does that say about her, guys? It talks about her perspective on relationships. Maybe it talks about some of her previous relationships. Maybe it talks about the longing love that's inside of her that she wants to come out. Maybe it just says something special about her. That could be a very revealing answer to a great question. Tell me about a romantic movie, or tell me a song that you like that's very romantic and what you like about it. That is such an interesting answer. Boy, I really appreciate that. I like that artist too, and I really like that song. So we have that in common. I completely understand. I saw it a little differently. I kind of thought the song meant something like this, or the lyrics meant something like this, but that's the beauty of music, isn't it? We can always interpret it differently. But I love your answer. Compliment, then ask a question, right? Tell me about your parents or grandparents. Is there a great love story in your family? How did they fall in love? How did they meet? Sometimes when you ask that question, that's a great question, right? I had a good friend of mine from Minnesota many years ago named Tom. That was one of his favorite questions, and that is a great question. Tom, if you're still out there, it's true. Tell me about your parents. Do they have a great love story? Tell me about your grandparents, or maybe an aunt or an uncle. I bet there's a really great love story in there somewhere. Just see what she says. What's interesting is if a woman can tell you, I came from all of this love and my parents, you know that she believes in love, wants love, and has a model for love. And that could be true of any woman anywhere we go, right, guys? Women in China could say, my parents, they were matched by a matchmaker. Can you imagine that? I mean, they were literally, their parents went to a matchmaker. The matchmaker said, I've got the perfect husband for your wife, the perfect wife for your husband. They met, they were matched, they got married right away with a very short courtship. They've been married all these years and they're happy as can be. Isn't that amazing? That is a story that you might hear. Tell me something you've always wanted to do, or a place you've always wanted to go. In Kiev, we're in Kiev. Tell me something you've always wanted to do in this city that you haven't done yet, or maybe someplace you've always wanted to go. Why would you ask that question? You're fishing for stuff to do, right? I've always wanted to go bowling. I've never been bowling. What? Are you kidding me? I love to go bowling. Let's go bowling. And then you've got that first bowling experience together. What a cool romantic idea, right? I've never flown anywhere. I'd like to fly somewhere. What? You've never been in a plane? Seriously? Wow. Why don't we go to Odessa for a day? I'll fly you to Odessa. We'll hang out, come back. Just to say you had your first flight, and I'll be there with you. We'll go to Odessa for dinner, fly for an hour, have dinner, and fly back. You could totally do it, and it'd be a kind of romantic thing to do. Tell me about your son or your daughter. Every parent loves to talk about their kids, right? Tell me, what is he or she like? What do they like to do? What are the quirky little things about? That is so interesting. If you have pictures, show me a picture. Oh my goodness, what a handsome child. Are you kidding me? Looks just like you. Those wonderful compliments and those open-ended questions are going to make her relaxed, show that you're a good guy, show that you're not boring. Guys, I'm telling you right now, every woman and every interpreter before a date, if they were speaking honestly in their head, they're thinking, please don't be boring. Please, dear God, don't be boring. I hate a boring date. I don't want to go on a date with a guy who's snoring through the date. Please don't be boring. Please. Please be mildly amusing and interesting. Please. And when you show up and you're asking these questions and you like her answers and you laugh and you compliment each other, she will do the same. She will enjoy her time with you. That's what you want, right? But your questions are everything, guys. Everything. Some more questions to ask on that first little bit of correspondence or that first date. Tell me about your work. What do you like about your work? What do you like about your job? What's challenging about your job? How do you handle that? Wow, I'm really impressed. I like the way you handle that problem. I think that's very mature and very, very determined. Good for you. Tell me, what kind of availability do you have this week? What do you mean? Do you have time this week to spend more time together if you'd like to do that? And that's a great question, right? Because that's telling her you really like her, the date's going well, and you want to spend more time with her. You can't just assume that she has time. You just want to know that she's got time to spend with you. What are your thoughts about living abroad? I know that's a big question, but have you thought about what it might be like to live in another country? Is there some place in America or maybe some place in Europe or around the world that you've always wanted to visit? Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Texas. What? Texas? Really? Why Texas? I just thought, I always see these guys in cowboy hats and whatever. It just looks like such an interesting place. Now, I've always wanted to go to Miami Beach. I know there are a lot of foreign people there from my country, a lot of Latin Americans, a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of Russians. It looks so beautiful and glamorous. I'd love to go to Miami. And you think to yourself, that's a pretty easy thing to do when she comes to America. Why not? What activities do you like? And when was the last time you did them? Oh, I really like horseback riding, but I haven't done it in years. Really? Interesting. Then later on, guys, I heard you like horseback riding. I like horseback riding, and I understand that there's a riding stable just outside of Kiev. It takes us about an hour to get there. Would you like to go tomorrow? Or something like that. Again, you're asking for things that you're going to be able to come back and take to the next level. What activities have you wanted to try for the first time? Is there anything you've never done that you wanted to do for the first time? I'd like to go to the opera. I've never been to the opera. Wow, cool. Going to the opera costs about $15 US if you're in Ukraine or Russia, for example. What cuisines do you like? Oh, I like Greek food. I love Italian food. I've always wanted to try Japanese cuisine, sushi. I've never tried it. Really? No kidding. I wonder, is there a good sushi restaurant in Kiev? Maybe we should go there. Something like that. You see where that's going, guys? You're asking questions that are interesting to her. You're also being inviting. You're laying the groundwork. What haven't you done? What would you like to do? Is there a coffee house or someplace you've always wanted to go to? Is there a movie that you've always wanted to see? What kind of movies do you like? I just saw this movie in the States. It's really terrific. I would love to show you this movie. Would you like to go to this movie together? You ask those questions, give compliments. Now, don't gush and gush and gush to the point where you're complimenting so much that it gets boring. But you know what I'm saying. A few compliments here or there, when you listen to her answers, really affirm that you like her, she's interesting. Nobody gets that feedback. I mean, again, women abroad, they work so hard, they have such limited dating opportunities, and even when they do, people are so self-absorbed. A lot of men are self-absorbed, quite frankly. So to go on a date where the guy is so into what you're talking about and asking you those open-ended questions and watching with very positive body language and smiling, right? Positive, boy, I really like your answer. Positive body language, affirming what she's saying, those compliments here or there, that's a good experience. Who wouldn't want to do that? Nobody wants to go to a dinner where you're listening to negative conversation with an awkward guy. Have your questions ready, guys. So, subsequently, it makes sense. There are probably some really bad questions to ask that are going to completely kill your date on the spot. And you want to avoid those. And a lot of guys completely forget, many guys completely blow by the idea that women come out on dates and have expectations. But it's true. even international women. All right, so the expectations are you're not going to make me uncomfortable, you're not going to press too much before I like you, you're not going to get too private, especially in front of a stranger or a translator, and you're not going to ask me anything that's defensive or inappropriate or things that I just can't wrap my mind around and then make me feel kind of small and stupid. And that's a good, those are pretty realistic, understandable expectations. Worst questions to ask. Talk about last relationships. Tell me about your last relationship. Why did it end? Why did you get divorced? Tell me more about that. Nobody wants to do that. You get a little bit into that, sure. I mean, a little bit here or there on those first couple of dates. But that's a very, very personal topic. And sometimes in order for somebody to completely answer that question, it takes time and some real comfort together. And it's going to take several dates before you're going to get that question completely answered. So don't go there. Don't ask. Ask. It's perfectly okay to ask about previous relationships. How has your experience been in previous relationships? Have you had mostly positive experiences or sad experiences? And just let her comment a little bit about that, right? And then move on. Later on, when you get to know each other and you're totally comfortable, do you mind if I ask you more about, your relationship past? Because I think we have some things in common, because I think we've experienced some similar things, and I want to just kind of support you. Something like that. How do you feel about the current political situation in China? How do you feel about the president of Ukraine? Look, guys, it's so common for people, for example, in the Philippines, President Duterte, very controversial character. President in Ukraine, the government in Ukraine, the level of corruption in Ukraine, in Russia, very controversial, right? It's hard for people sometimes to speak to that. Sometimes you have entire families that are completely divided in their opinion of those kinds of things. Politics really sucks as a dating topic, guys, so don't go there. Just wait until you get to know each other really well, and then you can cover that stuff. I've heard negative cultural references. Why are all the men so unreliable? Why do the men drink so much here? Why are you all so poor? I remember we were on a walking tour in Kharkov, and one of my clients said to the tour leader of our walking tour in Kharkov, why are you all so poor? It's like, wow, that's the only question you can think of to ask this person. Anyway, so those negative cultural references where you're just assuming there's something negative going on, don't ask with that accusatory tone. That's just going to offend somebody, right? You want to be the humble American. Humble Americans, people like us. Why are all men so terrible? Is it true local men are so terrible? Is it true they drink too much, etc., etc.? Again, those negative cultural references, just don't go there. Frame everything in a positive way. Keep it open-ended and inviting. Prenup. Some guys ask about the prenup. I know guys ask about a prenup on a first date. That's a colossally bad idea. Prenups in a lot of countries aren't done. It's going to take time to explain them. Whether or not she'll sign one and what kind of prenup, that depends on you and your relationship, and you got a long way to go before she will be able to wrap her mind around that. Because I guarantee you, if you don't bring it up and you throw a prenup down in front of her, that's completely unreasonable. That's just going to completely implode your relationship and your plans. Sure, prenup is an important topic for a lot of guys, I get that, but timing is definitely everything, and in the beginning, just don't do it. You need time to get to know each other. She needs time to get to know you to be sure you're the right man for her, and then you can talk about it. When your plans start to really solidify, why don't you speak more English? I understand that your profile says that you speak English. Can you speak more English? Again, kind of accusatory, and I would like to learn some Russian words. Can you teach me a few Russian words? How's your English? Can I teach you a few English words? Let's teach each other a few words. I think that'd be kind of funny. It's okay to play that kind of a game, but again, don't be accusatory. And guys, I'm sorry, but talking about intimacy in the first couple of dates is typically taboo everywhere you go, especially in conservative countries like the Philippines or Latin America, Colombia, Peru, and such. Obviously, intimacy, compatibility is so important for couples, and you definitely need to talk about it before you get carried away. But it's one of those things where, women in Ukraine, for example, women in Russia, they're not going to want to have this conversation in front of an interpreter most of the time until you all get really, really comfortable with each other. You're comfortable with her, your interpreter is comfortable with her, she's comfortable with your interpreter, maybe it's just the two of you alone talking to each other with no interpreter, and at some point, they makes perfect sense to have a conversation about the deeper parts of a relationship, but you definitely don't want to be doing that in the beginning. That is going to completely implode any positive impression that you've made. Those are some questions to definitely avoid. What we want are happy girls. these beautiful girls. This could easily be a street. In fact, this looks like the walking street in Odessa called Deribasovskaya Street. You could totally walk down Deribasovskaya Street in Odessa, or Khreshchatyk in the summertime, or Sovietskaya Street in Nikolaev. This is what you would see. Beautiful women out walking. They're happy. They're healthy. And this is the most beautiful thing in the world. Isn't this the greatest thing in the world? Just beautiful, healthy, strong, happy girls. Who loves to see that, more than us men, right? We love to see beautiful, happy women who are whole, and, they look so strong. They look, happy and smiling and optimistic. And we want to deliver that impression when we go out on a date. We want them leaving the date looking just like that. I had a great date with this guy. I know there are a lot of knuckleheads out there, but this guy was really great. We had such a nice date experience. I'd love to see him again. He's a very interesting man, very nice man. You want them feeling and thinking that as they walk away. You want them telling their friends about you, telling their family about you, because they won't be able to not tell anybody about you because they're excited about you. Right? Right. And at all times in your communication and on those first dates, to build that first positive impression, be calm, be emotionally balanced. Definitely be gentlemanly. I have guys tell me all the time that they're nice and gentlemanly when they clearly are not. But you know what gentlemanly is, and you know if you are gentlemanly. And if you are, good for you. Be gentlemanly, be calm, be confident, be considerate, be polite. Definitely have a sense of humor. It's good to smile. Now, sometimes jokes don't translate very well, but just keep smiling and she will eventually make a joke for you, right? Be positive and fun. Show interest and appreciation in what she has to say. That is really interesting. I love the way you handled that. I love the way you expressed that. That little expression you just said, very interesting, very poetic. I love that. I'm going to remember that for a long time. Little comments like that, right? This dress is very beautiful on you, right? You don't tell a woman, you look beautiful in that dress. This dress looks beautiful on you, right? You are the reason this dress is beautiful. Wow, I really love the way you did your makeup. It looks professionally done. Did you do this yourself, or did you have a professional that you have access to, or how did you do that? How did you come out here looking so perfect on this date? You look absolutely fabulous. Questions like, compliments like that will open her up to your open-ended questions so that she'll talk to you, which is exactly what you want, right, guys? Yeah, man, that's what's up. You like that? Did you make some notes? If you didn't, that's okay, because you can watch this webcast right here tomorrow morning as well. We'll have it replaying for you, and then we'll be all over YouTube on our YouTube channel and stuff like that. Now, do not take this advice from me. Actually, do, if you're smart. But you can also take the same advice from, it's just one of thousands, many incredible, beautiful women. Her name is Elena. I met her recently. In fact, I met her in November on a tour in Ukraine, in Kiev. And we sat down and had this really great conversation together, which I recorded. And then later on, when I showed this to my bosses, I said, this woman's incredible. She's got a great perspective. She has so much great advice to offer guys, and she's very well spoken. She kind of likes what we do. We should spend more time with her, and we did. Our great staff in Odessa, we got such a great videographer in Odessa, man, that guy rocks. And our great manager in Odessa put it all together for us. Out in Odessa she's amazing. If you guys have a chance to go to Odessa, Ukraine and meet our manager, Anna, she will knock you out. That girl gets it done. So we brought Elena to Odessa. We spent a couple of days with her. We recorded a lot of videos of her just answering questions like these. Let's listen to what she says about the best and worst questions to ask a Ukrainian girl on a date. Here we go.
Hello guys, today I want to speak about questions which women like to hear and probably which women don't like to hear and try to avoid. Almost every Ukrainian girl and woman will agree with me about questions which we like to hear, to listen. Honestly, for me, I like all questions. Because for me, it shows that person interested in me. It shows that person really serious, and if person, the more questions you ask, the more it shows your attentions, the more it shows that you're really serious and interested in the building family and finding your soulmate, your couple. So for sure, it's amazing if you ask a lot of questions. Don't afraid to ask questions about probably family, about even maybe previous relations, nothing bad in it. My opinion, we all not 16 years old, so for sure every one of us understand that Probably some of us already have children, have previous life, have been married and then divorced. So for sure it's normal that we have like our years of our life where we was doing something. And even when you remind about some things which was in your life before, for sure some person was with you those time. So it's normal if you little bit speak about your previous life, and I'm sure that it will give you to understand more about person. It will give you understand more about character, also about prefers, about what person like, what don't like. I think it's amazing when you ask a lot of questions. About questions which really sometimes maybe better not to ask. I think these questions about politics, about religion, and probably about health. It's also, I think, sometimes can maybe hurt someone's feelings. So try to be correctly when you ask about these questions. I also understand, you guys, that it's very important to understand the family from which roots have your future wife, future soulmate, and probably you really want to know exactly all things. But I'm sure that if you became like a couple, if you will make a match, you can always ask these questions after some time when you became closer to each other. But on first meetings, on first date, I think such type of questions better not to ask. I think that you also should feel with whom you can speak more open, with whom probably it must be some time to be more open and to be more open with conversation. You know, I can tell you even by myself, even when I have experience like a translator, people different age, different character, different, you know, some people more extrovert, some people introvert. So sometimes you can see people so much open on the first date, on the first meeting. They're ready to speak about everything. They like became like a friends just quickly. But some people a little bit shy, maybe more younger, so they don't really know how to behave, which topics open, which not open. They're a little bit shy. So also be patient and not be afraid if you see that woman a little bit maybe not too much open. It's normal. It's we all human, and you should understand that maybe she's nervous, maybe it's her first date in life. It was foreign man. So just be patient and be careful in these topics, which I noticed that probably better not to ask. This is health, I repeat once again, this is political situation, and probably religion. And I wish you good luck and arrive to our country. We will be happy to meet you, to see you, and wish you good luck in finding your soulmate.
There you have it, guys, right? So interesting, right? Avoid those political topics. You don't get too much into past relationships. Keep the conversation definitely light and positive to lead a good impression. And yeah, appreciate those great answers from Elena. We have many more great videos of Elena that you'll be able to watch soon. She gives us such great perspective, and I think she's going to start interacting with our clients on tours sometime really soon. She is profile number 159503. Guys ask me all the time if the women are real. My friend asked a question in the beginning. Was it Robert who said he was afraid everything was a scam? So you can go look at profile number 159503. That is just one of the many really great women that we've interviewed recently, and I've got many of those interviews. Remember Victoria from Kiev, who I interviewed in the same day, actually gave us a really great interview, talked about how she wanted to look across the room in the middle of a social gathering and see her man preoccupied talking to other people and just think to herself, that's my man and I'm proud of him. And I just thought that was such great perspective from her. So we have these great interviews with women from all over the world that you can watch, just so you can hear for yourself how these women think and what their expectations are. And I think you'll find all of that really encouraging, guys. Some more of your questions. We have a little bit of time. I want to answer some of your questions. You can press the green box right above me, send me your question, and I will try to answer it for you. Ryan is asking, what are some common mistakes men make when they first meet foreign women? Well, there are two things that I've spoken about in a prior video blog that are really important, Ryan. And one of them You know, this is a really sticky one for a lot of guys, and this is where I usually offend guys, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm not going to lie to you, and I've been doing this a long, long time, and as obnoxious as it sounds, nobody has ever proven me wrong in 17 years. The biggest mistake that men make when they meet foreign women is they completely lose their mind when it comes to age difference, and they start looking at women who are much more than a generation younger than they are, and that's a trap. You know, the behavior of women who are not from the same generation as you, my friends, is going to be somewhat unpredictable, somewhat erratic, confusing, because women who are younger may like you for various reasons, but they don't like you romantically if you're older than their parents. They're not attracted to you, there's not going to be chemistry, and they're not going to want to pursue you romantically, even though they might like your time and attention very, very much. So a lot of guys spend a lot of time having great conversations and coffee dates with a girl, thinking it's going to get romantic, and then it never does, and that is definitely the biggest mistake that men make when they meet women internationally. Secondly, this is very important and not something you would think about, Ryan, but when you meet international women, you have to sound like a man with a plan. You've got to sound like you know exactly what you're doing and where this is going. I came here to meet somebody because I want to find a wife. I spent a lot of time, or I decided this was a time in my life when I wanted to have some nice dates and just make some new friends and do some fun things together with total integrity. But I definitely want to get out of my shell. I've been too solitary, too alone for too long, and I want to get out there and just meet people and have really nice, dates together. And that's why I'm here. Or I got tired of being alone in my life. I know people who are happy with families and marriages, and I want that for myself. So I am determined that I'm going to have that in the next year. So I'm going to meet somebody, find someone, court that person, fall in love, dedicate myself to that person, and I'm going to bring our two worlds together. I know this is done commonly all the time every year. Yeah, I'm definitely here to find a wife. So my next step is going to be, we'll meet now, we'll spend time together, we'll have great romance. I'm going to be back in 2 months. We'll spend a little bit more time together, 3 months, whatever it is. But I'm going to come back, we'll have more time together, more romance. I'm going to completely romance the heck out of this woman for as long as I can, get that girl to marry me, and then ride off into the sunset and be happy. And you got to be able to speak to your plan and know what you're doing. If you go on a tour and you meet a lot of very beautiful women, the women around you know that you're meeting other women. They know you're surrounded by beautiful women. If you sound like a confused kid in a candy store, the women are going to think you're exactly that. In order for them to open up and trust the stuff that you're saying, when you say, I really like you, I want to get serious about you, I want to fall in love with you, I want to be committed to you, you have to sound like you know what you're talking about. You have to have a plan and be able to speak to it. Those are two really important things. And again, Ryan, it's always important, guys, for the love of God, please smile and be happy. Nobody wants to meet Eeyore. Eeyore's cuddly and he's cute and he's friendly, but oh bother, have to go out on another date, probably need to buy some coffee. If you sound like Eeyore, nobody's going to fall in love with you. Eeyore has a huge advantage. He's an incredibly cute character, but we're not Eeyore, right? So you got to be positive, be smiling, be happy. That is really, really important. Great question, Ryan. Thank you. Melvin, I love you, man. My buddy from Chicago. Melvin, seriously, you are an incredibly great guy, and I appreciate you so much. I really do. How would you reply if a woman asks you, why did you come to her country to find a wife? And the women are definitely going to ask you this question. Last Sunday, I was in Orlando, Florida, doing a live Skype with our Odessa office. Our great manager, Anna, had, 5, maybe 6 very beautiful young women in Odessa, and several of them, we were Skyping, my group of guys at the seminar and our girls in Odessa. We were Skyping with each other on a Sunday morning. And definitely the women were asking, why are you coming to Ukraine to find a wife? It's kind of interesting. Women around the world watch our media, watch our movies, and they see Demi Moore. And they see, beautiful women and beautiful actresses and big houses. And to a certain extent, they know that that's not real, but they also don't know what reality is. So they're going to ask you, why are you here? What's wrong with your culture, with your women and such? And how you answer that is you tell the truth and keep it positive, right? Always keep it positive. I really like our culture, and certainly there are a lot of very nice women in America, but for whatever reason, we all know somebody who's alone and lonely no matter what they do. They just find it difficult to find a life mate. In our culture, there's an even number of men and women, and it's not hard for somebody to find a life mate most of the time. But I'll tell you what, I've tried, it's just not happening for me, or I'm just not really happy with the results when I post a profile on a dating site. I'm just not finding good matches. So I decided, why not use the technology that's available to me? And I really think Ukraine is an interesting place. I've always wanted to come to the Philippines. I've heard the women here are incredibly friendly. Colombian people I just think are so interesting. I know you all dance, like Dancing with the Stars. I wanted to come and see it for myself. And I came here partially because I wanted to explore your country and your culture because I find it so interesting, but also because I won't lie, I think Ukrainian women are very interesting, and I want one for myself. I really do. Just one. I certainly don't want more than one, but one who's ready to be all mine. I definitely want that. That's a great answer. Nobody will argue with. Steve says, 2 questions. All right. What is Ukraine's money exchange rate for U.S. currency, and does that rate change from town to town like Odessa compared to Kiev? The rate does not change very much. The last time I checked, it was about 27 to 28 hryvnia per dollar. You get a great exchange rate, and food and most things in Ukraine are very, very reasonably priced. You know, you can usually get something to eat or something to drink in Ukraine for about half the price of what you would pay here in America, for example. Always exceptions to that, but that's generally the rule. Does it really get warm in Odessa and Kiev? It does get quite warm in Odessa and Kiev in July, in June, in August, even in September a little bit. But there's air conditioning, so it's all good. Since you've been going to Ukraine for some time now, is Visa accepted there? Yes, it is, all over the place. And should I bring an extra $2,000 or $3,000? Well, that's a lot, my friend. That is. I don't know that you need to bring an extra $2,000 or $3,000. That just seems like a lot. You know, you can call me up and tell me what your thoughts are, who you're trying to meet, and where you want to go, and I can give you a pretty good approximation of how much extra money you should take. I know that you remember me when I asked you about singing karaoke. Holy cow, Steve, do I remember that? Max says to me, Bud, can Steve sing karaoke? No, he can't. How about now? No, Max. Can he sing karaoke? No, Max, we're not doing karaoke. Steve wants to sing karaoke. No, Max, we're not doing it. And yet you ended up singing karaoke, but you're a good singer, so it was all good. You're a handsome devil, Steve. Are you coming back on one of our tours? That'd be great to see you again, my friend. I really liked you. Anyway, going on another Ukraine trip this May or June. Good, my friend. Hope you do. Just getting over surgery. Hey, man, Steve, you're a good-looking guy. You're a friendly guy. You were an awesome tour mate. So by all means, man, right? I'll even let you do karaoke, I promise. Take me with you. All right, anyway, guys, what other questions do you have? Let's have them. I've got a few minutes left, just a few. We talked tonight about good questions to ask women when you're on a first date or in that first correspondence. Questions that leave a good impression. Questions that show you as a calm, happy, confident gentleman. Very, very important. Women want to see a calm, happy, confident gentleman. Not a confused, misogynist, whatever, right? They want someone who is calm, who's confident, who looks like the kind of man they can put their faith in, their trust in, who ultimately they could fall in love with, and maybe even relocate halfway around the world and spend the rest of their life with. So there are questions that are open-ended, that invite them to talk. Ask those questions. Tell me about the love story in your family. Tell me movies or songs that you like. What are some artists that you like? Tell me a song that you like. How about a scene in a movie? What are some things you've always wanted to do that you've never done? You've never gone bowling? Are you kidding me? I love bowling. We're totally going bowling. Clear your schedule, girl. We're going bowling, all right? And compliment. Wow, that's so interesting. I love the way you worded that. That was really poetic. One of the reasons I love coming to this country is I just love the way people speak. There's a really deep, soulful thing about it that you just demonstrated, so it's very nice. Again, compliment. You don't have to compliment every single question because that'll sound contrived and just get old. But every other question, every couple of questions, throw that compliment out. This is really, wow, fascinating. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Thank you for opening to me, and thank you for answering that question. I know it's a little tricky. And just show that you're a cool, interesting guy with some charisma, and you're interesting to talk to because these women totally don't have that in their lives, and they will welcome it and want to spend more time with you. Neil says, what motivation do young, beautiful women have when they write me saying, I love your age, 57, and want to take care of you? Are they getting any cut of the correspondence? I love questions like that. I really do. I just, honestly. So Neil, look, here's the deal, buddy. I got tens of thousands of women on this website who want to meet somebody. I got tens of thousands of guys that want to write letter to the most beautiful women on our website. Young, Photoshop boobs, perfectly beautiful women. These are the only women tens of thousands of men want to write to, and they leave completely alone thousands and thousands of other really, really great women. And nobody wants to get on the plane and go and meet these women. I can't say nobody. It's actually about 1,000 guys a year will get on a plane and go and meet these women. That's nice. 1,000 guys. Can't beat that. But I got 40,000 women on the website, and I got tens of thousands of guys writing silly letters saying all kinds of stuff they don't mean in a virtual relationship. And in the middle of all that are these agencies trying to help these women find a husband, trying to help these guys get up the brevity and the gonads to get on a plane and go meet your girl and get out of that virtual correspondence comfort zone that tens of thousands of guys settle for. Why would a girl say, I like your age? If she says she likes your age, I would take her for her word. Now, if you're 57 and she's under the age of 35, whether she says it or not, I wouldn't go there. I just wouldn't. She could be a perfectly well-meaning person. She could look at you and say, he looks fine, I really don't mind the age, but she's young, she's inexperienced, and at some point, an age gap that makes you older than her parents is going to catch up to you. So ignore it, for crying out loud. Seriously, just ignore it. You've got agencies, you've got girls, everybody trying to get out in front of each other, competing with each other, and it's tough, right? Nobody says you have to respond to a letter that's in your inbox. You can go to the search engine. Guys, I would so much rather have you just go to the search engine, find the women that you want to write to, and write to them, and do that. We have guys going on tour all the time who are meeting women that they're writing to. But again, what I essentially have here is a lot of really great real estate brokers, tons of them, with a whole bunch of houses to sell that are great houses and no buyers. And now they're coming to the market, if you will. And all the buyers are coming out going, so, you know, I can't afford a $2 million house, but I think I'd like to look at one. I think I'd like to walk through one and kick the tires a little bit. Focus on what's right for you and go get it. And don't be confused by this other stuff. Seriously, that's tough love, but there it is, my friends, right? I get this all the time from guys. I get guys all the time that sit there saying, I'm 60 years old, I want to write to the most beautiful 20-year-old girls, I want them to have beautiful Photoshop boobs, I don't want them to require a single thing of me, I never want to have to get off my butt and get on a plane and go and meet them, and I want it to be real. Do not get sucked into virtual correspondence with someone who's not appropriate for you. Go and get your girl. Go get your girl. I got video after video after video showing people meeting each other, and that is always going to be a much more gratifying experience than months and months and months of correspondence with women who may or may not be old enough for you. Thanks for your question. If you get married in China, do you have to fill out a CR1 equals K3 visa? I have no idea. That's a great question, Stephen. I'll tell you what, forward that to me in an email, bud@loveme.com, and I will be more than happy to look into that for you, okay? Great question. Just need to look into it for you, my friend. We are looking at video from Kiev. This was, I think, my February Kiev tour, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, nice. And I know that guy. I totally remember this exact situation. He was talking to this one girl, and just over her shoulder, this other girl was looking at him, trying to get his attention, and he ended up talking to both of them. And I'm not sure which one he went out with, but Stephen is now married up in Canada, and that's a spectacular thing. So he married a beautiful girl from Ukraine. I love that. All right. Hey, guys, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for your questions. All of them, even the tough ones, I appreciate them very much. And I'm not going to give you candy answers. I'm going to tell you what I think from the heart, and you can do whatever you want with that information. Hopefully it will resonate with you so you won't get sucked into the virtual correspondence that everybody out there who does what we do wants you to get sucked into because it makes them a buttload of money. I want you to go get your girl. Everything I do passionately implores you to get off your butt, stop writing letters into oblivion, and go get your girl. And if you are serious and you're a nice guy with good old-fashioned family values and a healthy respect for women and realistic age difference expectations, I got you, bro. I do. So you call me up, talk to me, let me help you. I've got a book on deck for you guys that's coming up really soon. It's going to be fabulous. You're going to love it. Tons of great information, and nothing like it anywhere on the market, I promise you. So be looking for my book release in the next 30 days. We'll talk more about that soon. Hope you guys have a great night and a great week. I am on a mission next week, personal mission, and I will be probably, as I think about this, we'll probably be pre-recording a really great webcast for you next Monday night, but there will be a webcast one way or another. So join us again next Monday night. We'll have more great topic for you, some more great video for you to watch, and I'll be back with you live soon as well. If you need anything in the meantime, bud@loveme.com. Remember, seminar in St. Louis, February 17th, seminar in Phoenix, February 24th. RSVP, bud@loveme.com, and I'll see you there, okay? Have a great week, guys.